The following is a VSC TV special presentation.
Hello and welcome to the VSC Journal. This program was directed, written, and produced by the telecommunications faculty and students of Valdosta State College. I hope you will enjoy this first installment of the 1989 VSC Journal.
When was the last time you visited Holland, heard a national poet laureate, or ventured into the past through a historic landmark? Hello, I'm Krista Kinert.
And I'm Dean Krueger, and we're your hosts today, kicking off another exciting season of the VSC Journal. And today's segments promise to be interesting.
That's right, Dean, especially for our viewers who are interested in the reopening of West Hall.
And now let's join Lori Noble as she takes us through the renovation of West Hall.
West Hall is the oldest building here at Valdosta State College, and the renovation project that began in 1985 is nearing completion, but over 70 years have passed since the original building was first constructed. With this simple speech, quote, "Since I'm the youngest in the youngest grade in the college, I so shall enjoy its benefits for the longest time. It gives me great pleasure to break the first dirt where the beautiful new building will be placed." 6-year-old student Caroline Parrish officially began the construction of West Hall in January of 1917. Within that same year, the new building was completed and classes began. United States Senator William S. West was the author of the charter that brought about the funding for West Hall, and thus the building was named in his honor. At the time of the original construction, the school was named South Georgia State Normal College, but in 1922 the college became a 4-year school, and with that change came the new name, Georgia State Women's College. The college went through several more changes dealing with academics and administration, but it was not until 1950 that the school became known as Valdosta State College. Although the college went through several changes, West Hall remained the foundation for which the campus was built around. But as the years passed, the lines of time crept onto the face of the building that served as the heart of Valdosta State College. It was finally decided in the late 70s that repairs were needed, and when the Board of Regents sent down their okays, work began to fix up the campus's oldest building.
Well, we've been trying for 10 years to get funds to renovate West Hall. It's the oldest building on campus. It's completed around 1917, and of course there has been no fundamental revision or renovation of it during all those years. The roof has not been taken off in almost 70 years, so heaven knows it was time. We've been trying through the years to get funds for it.
And what were they trying to accomplish with this restoration project?
Of course, we were looking for the restoration of the original portion of the building to look like it did when the building was constructed. Interior-wise, we were seeking to get as commodious facility as possible that would meet the needs of the various people who would use the building. There was a desire to maintain continuity throughout the building. If you may remember the old annex, the portion perpendicular to the portion that faces Patterson Street, was not in architectural conformity at all with the original portion. The original portion was Spanish Mission, and this was Greyhound Bus Station, 1940 style. The new building will be consistent throughout and be built in conformity with the original design. In the interior, of course, what you have to have is something that is not shocking to your sensitivities as you look at the exterior, but there is no mandated style for the interior. There we tried to get as much space utilization as possible.
The budget for the restoration project came from special allocations from the Board of Regents. But what was considered when deciding on this budget?
The design that was created would, to some degree, determine what was involved in the budget. We met with, and our architect met with, all of the departments and members of the department that would use that facility. They determined how many classrooms would be needed, how many offices would be needed, how many labs would be needed, what type of electrical outlets. There are literally thousands of details involved in that. And to a large degree, the determination of the budget was made by the features that were included in the facility and that decision was ultimately made by the facilities section of the Chancellor's office, recommending certain actions to the Board of Regents. And of course the board allocated the fund.
So far, this project has taken several months, but according to both Dr. Bailey and Principal Architect Blake Ellis, the completion of West Hall seems to be right on schedule.
600 days was given as the time once the construction people actually began work. So it just takes a long period of time, because what is involved is going in and removing the entire interior of the building. But we still anticipate the project being completed by December of 1988, which is well within the timeline. We are planning to get in and have classes resume there in the spring quarter of '89. And if we do gain access to the building in December, that gives us plenty of time to have the shakedowns that need to take place, where everyone will be comfortable once we begin to function out of the building in March 1989.
I think the contractor is basically on schedule. We anticipate turning the building over to the college probably around Christmas of this year. It's progressed well.
Blake Ellis represents the architectural firm of Ellis, Rickett & Associates, and he tells us how they were involved in designing the restoration.
Well, almost total input within the limits of the building that existed when we started, and the requirements of the college for classrooms and office space and that sort of thing. That's really all that was given to us. We had complete freedom to do what we pretty much wanted to do on the interiors, and even on some of the exteriors.
The outward appearance of West Hall seems unaltered. However, once inside, the changes are evident.
The biggest single change is to be that the one I mentioned previously. When you walk in the front entrance to West Hall, which is designed to be the front door of the campus, so to speak, you're going to see right straight up to the dome. From that rotunda, you'll enter the president's office on the left, the dean of students' office on the right, and then the classrooms will be straight in front of you and on each end of the old building. Mostly what you see on the outside is going to be what you've been seeing all along, except refinished. It won't be cracked and dirty as it has been in the past.
And after all the hard work is completed, Mr. Ellis hopes to get a favorable reaction from students and the community at large.
And I hope that people, when they see it, will say that it looks very much like the original, but maybe feel that it's a little better.
And many may wonder why all this time, effort, and money were put into such an old building. But this is how Dr. Bailey sums up the project.
Plus, I, for one, believe that this is going to be the most attractive building in the entire university system. For one thing, there will be a rotunda. For the first time, that area immediately under the dome will be opened at 69 feet from the center of the building on the first floor to the rotunda top. And it's going to be lovely. We lost very little space that was being used for anything else. There will be the seal of the college in bronze immediately under that rotunda, and there will be marble opening off that in the center area, green marble, very dark green. And we think it's going to just be beautiful. Well, I hope that they're going to be delighted with this building. I hope they're going to be as proud of it as they would be a new home for their parents. I think this is going to be something that means a lot to all of us. West Hall is more than just a building. It is the symbol of the college. This was one of the first buildings created, one of the 3 original buildings on this campus, going back to the earliest years. All of the classes were taught there for many years. The dome has become the symbol of our college. The last few years we changed the seal. So I think that I hope many of them will have almost an emotional reaction, that they'll be very proud of this.
As West Hall nears completion, it won't be long before the required materials needed to enter the building will change from hard hats to thinking caps. For VSC Journal, I'm Lori Noble. You just watched a story on the restoration of West Hall that VSC TV produced last spring. Well, now we're only about a month away from spring quarter '89 and the expected reopening date of West Hall. So with the help of President Bailey and Vice President of Alcon Construction Company, Mr. Roy Newell, we're going to give you a special sneak preview at what's happened to the oldest building on campus. While walking to West Hall, I noticed that the fence, which had once surrounded the building, had been removed. So when I met President Bailey inside, in front of his new office, I asked him what this meant.
It means that we're getting very near to occupancy of the building. The building is still not ours, in the sense that it is under the control of the State Building Authority. It probably will be the last week in March or perhaps even into April before the building is turned over to us. It is 99.5% complete. However, there are some changes that the Fire Marshal is insisting upon, which we wish to be made, of course, before we take possession. And so technically, we are here this morning, here today, I should say, as guests of the State Building Authority.
I also asked President Bailey how the reopening of West Hall will affect the rest of the campus.
Many of the classes that are now being taught on the North Campus will be moved to this campus, allowing it to be primarily used for courses in business administration and for the Air Force ROTC. So it will certainly decrease the traffic of students. It will make it much more convenient for students to schedule classes back to back. It will remove our faculty from multi-office occupancy. We've had as many as 3 professors in one tiny office space. So they will have more commodious facilities in which to transact their business. There will be greater privacy when students wish to consult with professors. So we feel that it will be a tremendous advantage for all concerned at Valdosta State College.
President Bailey then went on to explain when classes would resume.
We'll begin some classes in the Education Building and at Thaxton Hall on the North Campus, and we'll move some of those classes over, particularly to the classrooms that have permanently positioned seating.
I'm now sitting in one of the newly finished classrooms at West Hall. As you can see, my chair goes in and out. It's very comfortable. We have long table desktops, and the classroom itself is at a slant for good visibility. Behind me, you can see the Spanish Mission architect in the windows. This runs throughout the building. All that's missing now is a few more students and a teacher, and we'll be ready to go. And who will these teachers be? President Bailey went on to explain to me what departments will be housed in West Hall.
Among other academic activities in this building, and this is almost exclusively an academic building, we'll have the Department of English. That will be the largest department with over 20 professors. We'll have the Department of History, the Department of Modern Foreign Languages. We'll have the English, the Writing Laboratory. We'll have the Modern Foreign Language Laboratory in this building.
After I spent time exploring the many classrooms and offices, I joined President Bailey back in the Rotunda and asked him if a special ceremony was being planned for the reopening of West Hall.
Yes, we've had a number of people working on this. We wish to work very closely with the faculty committee and with the SGA to plan dedicatory ceremonies during homecoming next year. So we are working on this, and we'll be asking the help of a number of people as we make plans for the formal dedication.
Throughout the interview with President Bailey, I could feel the great pride that he felt for the restoration of West Hall. One distinct point of his pride is a large bronze medallion of the college's seal located in the center of the green marble floor of the Rotunda. Referring to the Rotunda itself, President Bailey said that this must be the most beautiful single spot in the university system. The idea for the medallion and the Rotunda were President Bailey's own, and they will continue to live on as his personal legacy to Valdosta State College. Well, I hope you enjoyed the sneak preview inside of West Hall just as much as I did. Soon the mystery will be gone and your curiosity will be satisfied as you personally walk inside and gaze upward. Then you can be the judge. For VSC TV, I'm Lori Noble.
Seeing West Hall is like taking a tour through the past.
Well, you know, Krista, it's a very historic and beautiful piece of architecture that will be useful to us all here at VSC.
We'll be right back for more on VSC Journal.
Originating from the Department of Communication Arts at Valdosta State College, we're VSC TV, bringing you a wide variety of sports, arts, and information about your community. Stay tuned for more entertainment on VSC TV.
Welcome back. Our next story is about the 1987 Poet Laureate, Richard Wilbur, who spoke to students and faculty here at Valdosta State College.
Ryan Calloway, one of our own student reporters, has the inside scoop.
Students and faculty of Valdosta State College were treated to an afternoon lecture and evening reading by the 1987 U.S. Library of Congress Poet Laureate Richard Wilbur. Richard Wilbur was brought to Valdosta State College through a grant from the Georgia Humanities Council and the National Endowment for the Humanities. I talked to Mr. Wilbur between sessions and asked him who the major influences were in his writings.
It would be the expected leading figures of the generations ahead of mine in America. People like Robert Frost, Marianne Moore, Wallace Stevens, William Carlos Williams. My list could go on pretty long. And then, of course, though I'm completely an amateur in other languages and literatures, I have read, I've read my Dante in the Italian and so on, and I have been greatly influenced and prompted by poets of other literatures and other times. It makes a very long list, and I think that it's probably good that I've taken my prompting from so many quarters, because it's kept me from knuckling under to any one influence, copying any one person, and thus submerging my own personality. I always advise students and young poets to get excited about lots of poets at once if they can, and make them all tributary to their own work. After all, none of us thought up the art of poetry. We were all inspired to do it in the first place by the poetry of others.
Mr. Wilbur is known worldwide for his abilities not only as a poet, but also as translator to English of the poets of France and medieval Europe. During the afternoon session, he described his role as a translator.
I do respect this rather patient work I've done enough to say that I have been faithful thought by thought to the original, and I've been as faithful as I could possibly be to the tone of the original, which of course is the crucial thing. That's the thing above all in translation. It's not so much what does somebody say, but how does he say it? In what tone does he say it?
During his evening readings, Mr. Wilbur showed his abilities as a translator and poet by presenting his favorite translations of riddles.
Sometimes riddles are conceptual. For instance, there's this wonderful Elizabethan one. What God never sees. How about that for a first line? What God never sees, what the king seldom sees, what we see every day, guess my riddle, I pray. That's the answer to that is an equal. But mostly riddles are, because they're are a primitive and wonderful form of poetry, are concerned with the ordinary objects of the natural and human world. Here's perhaps the best, my best effort in translating a symphosious riddle. Unequal in degree, alike in size, we make our flight, ascending toward the skies, and rise with those who by our help can rise. That's a staircase. Unequal, there are puns in it, but there are puns in the original too. Unequal in degree, alike in size, we make our flight, ascending toward the skies, and rise with those who by our help can rise.
During the evening session, the audience was delighted by Richard Wilbur's poetic abilities.
What is the opposite of actor? The answer is very simple: tractor. I said that just because it rhymes, as lazy poets do at times. However, to be more exact, an actor is one who likes to act King Lear in some unlikely plot, pretending to be what he's not. The opposite of actor, friend, is someone who does not pretend, but is himself, like you and me. I'm Romeo. Who might you be? The opposite of donut? Wait a minute while I meditate. This isn't easy. Ah, I've found it. A cookie with a hole around it.
Richard Wilbur's presence here on campus was a valued addition to the fine arts here at Valdosta State College. This is Ryan Calloway for VSC TV.
That was really fascinating. It's nice to see that poetry hasn't died.
Yes, and it's interesting to know people care about college students enough to share their insights through on-campus speaking engagements.
In the spring of 1988, Dr. David Johnson and the VSC Concert Choir toured Holland and northern Belgium, and now it's time to take a journey overseas to Amsterdam.
Dawn in Amsterdam. The city slowly wakes on a cold March morning to a new workday. The ever-present bicyclers wend their way through the narrow, winding streets. The sounds of the awakening city are soft, all but the trams carrying the sleepy workers on their way. In the empty cafeteria of the Coke Hotel, the Valdosta State College Choir rehearse for one final time before they begin their concert tour of the city. Dr. David Johnson explains how this tour became a reality.
The dean called me in his office and said, "How would you like to take the concert choir to Europe?" Because a proposal had been sent to him relative to a New York trip. So I was rather stunned and taken back just a little bit, and I said, well, that would be great if we think we can do that. So we pursued it, began to discuss the trip with the concert choir to find out how many of these individuals were actually interested in the trip, and whether or not those who were interested, would it provide us with a balance to sing. So that's the way it started. Our first major stop was in Amsterdam, and we were there for right at a week, I suppose, and had 3-4 concerts in Amsterdam. I think that it was really smart for our dean when he first developed the trip, for him to let us stay for such a long period of time in this large city. And I think he probably did it for a reason. Number one, we really did get to know the city quite well. I don't believe that any one of the kids or faculty who went, if we went back now, I think we could pick up just about where we left off, knowing where to go, how to ride the tram, where to buy the tickets, where the theaters were. We went to live concerts there. We went all over the city. We saw some wonderful museums. We sang in some gorgeous churches, and all of the places where we sang we were very well received, especially at the one that we sang. It was the only English-speaking church in Amsterdam, and we sang the morning service there as a part of the service and not just a concert. And the acoustics in the place were just tremendous, and everybody really did like the way that we sang. They thought it was very unique. The sound was very clear and very warm. We did another concert that afternoon at the largest Lutheran church in Amsterdam, and we shared that concert with a symphony, with a small chamber orchestra, which the students got to hear the orchestra concert, and then many of the orchestra people, I think, stayed and heard the choir sing, and the place was actually very full. In fact, all of the concerts, the attendance at all of the concerts where we performed was excellent, far above what I think we had expected.
The Valdosta State College Choir sang and toured throughout Holland and Belgium, visiting such cities as Rosmalen, Utrecht, Antwerp, and Rotterdam, and finished their tour in style in St. Nicholas, Belgium.
The 1988 concert tour was a great success, and for those of our viewers who enjoyed watching this portion of the concert tour,
there will be an hour-long program coming this spring showing the sights and sounds of Holland during the VSC Concert Choir Tour.
that should prove worth waiting for.
And that concludes our episodes for the VSC Journal for today.
Be sure to join us next time for more interesting segments created by our own students here at VSC.
I'm Dean Krueger.
And I'm Krista Kinert.
And we're your hosts this week for the VSC Journal.
Until next time, we'll leave you now with a calendar of events showing happenings in and around Valdosta State College. Good night.